So this strategy that we're going to talk about is called surfing the urge. And this was discovered through addiction research. But essentially what we typically do when we feel a craving coming on is we try to do everything in our power to suppress it, right? We're like, no, like I'm not eating cookies today, I'm gonna be good, I'm gonna be good, I'm gonna go on Facebook and do something else, and I'm gonna, maybe I'll go drink a Diet Coke or something to like fill that sweetness void in my mouth, and we'll do everything we can to distract ourselves. And unfortunately, all that really does is delay it, and it keeps putting it off, and it stretches it out, so that it feels like it never goes away. You're never actually dealing with it, and you're never actually satisfying it until you break down, and then you break down. So surfing the urge is a different technique that is going to sound a little counterproductive. You might think I'm crazy, and if you do, please tell me. But let me explain how it works, and then we can talk through it. So essentially, this is another form of mindful practice. Remember we talked on day one about how feeling when you're being mindful about your eating is to sit back and observe the present moment without judgment, like without saying this is good or this is bad, without saying I'm good, I'm bad, without saying I shouldn't feel this way, I should feel this way. It's just like, this is how I feel. I'm just gonna observe it. I'm not gonna act on it. I'm just gonna feel it, like feeling that itch. And you can do this with a craving. You can if you have a craving, instead of just sitting at your computer and trying to distract yourself, step away, go to a couch, sit down, sit comfortably, and close your eyes, take a deep breath, breathe out, and just feel the craving and feel what it feels like. And what happens in that moment is you realize that you can tolerate it. And when and the way a craving typically comes on is it's like a wave. That's why we use the surfing analogy. It starts and it sort of builds a crescendo, and then it peaks, which is when we normally break down, and then it subsides. And the idea is that when you can sit there and be mindful and just be and experience the craving, you can actually go through this with it and then actually let it dissipate instead of just putting it off and letting it continue to torture you for the next several hours or even days. So what's essential here is understanding that it actually is a temporary thing. You can get through a craving and it will subside eventually. But putting it off doesn't let you do that. You don't hit the level of satisfaction and you don't let it dissipate. So it can be really frustrating. So this technique, a lot of people have reported great success. And granted, remember we talked about you're gonna mess up sometimes? Sometimes you're gonna try this, and it's not gonna work. But keep practicing, and it gets easier, and it gets better, and it gets more effective. And ultimately, cravings actually start to decrease. And while you're trying to sit there and do your urge surfing, whenever you feel like you're going a little crazy, focus on the craving, feel it, but also you can always go back to focusing on your breath. Just feeling your body. Sometimes cravings like make your shoulders tense up or make your jaw tense up or some other part of your body. You can feel it in a certain place and just pay attention and be aware and don't judge it and just let it be. And again, don't feel failure, or don't fear failure. It's okay if you give into a craving. It's not gonna, you're a foodist. We're building other habits. This is one habit we're gonna be working on. There's lots of room for improvements. There's a lot of other places to work. So, and cravings are one of the hardest things to break, ever. So expect it to not be perfect every time, but it is something you can work on, and you don't have to be at the mercy of this sort of like demon that overtakes your body that wants you to like eat really bad. Was it the chocolate monster? Was that what we talked about the other day? The chocolate monster doesn't necessarily have to rule your life. You do have some control over this.